If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Sorry, my bad. Take a right, go down 2 blocks. I didn't know. Hi, thank you for tuning in to That's the Setup podcast. I'm your host, Sharika Duncan, a new author of the Setup novel. Check me out on Instagram at Sharika Duncan and on Facebook as Sharika Duncan Author or my website, sharikaduncan.com.
Setup. I'm your host, Sharika Duncan, and joining me today is my beautiful co-host, Miss Roline. Hi, Miss Roline.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Sharika, and happy International Women's Day.
Yes, it is. What a wonderful day it is.
Yes, it's a sunny
You
Sunday.
remember? You remember it, Ro.
Yeah, after you told me a few days ago that it was coming out, and I was like, what? What? Let's be honest.
Just to be honest, you're right. I only saw someone else give a heads up, and that put it on my radar, honestly. But what a day to acknowledge women, all right? We must acknowledge us every day, but hey, let's take advantage of today and understand, what does this really mean exactly? Because, hey, International Women's Day, is that different from an American woman? I mean, come on.
Well, based on the brief research that I did do on this topic, it says that International Women's Day is, of course, on March 8th, which is today. It first began in 1913. It was designed to help nations worldwide eliminate discrimination against women and also focus on helping women gain full and equal participation in global development and basic women's rights. It's actually an observed holiday worldwide, mostly in some countries. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 countries. Several of them I cannot pronounce. 2 of them I can pronounce, so I'm going to talk about them. Russia and Ukraine.
Okay.
That observe it to the point where many businesses, government offices, educational institutions are closed in those 7 countries.
Really?
And sometimes it's cut short and it's called Women's Day, but the proper term of it, of course, is International Women's Day, right? And it is a national observance in many countries. And some people, they have street marches, they have parades, and they have all kinds of events for this holiday.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. That is so awesome, and this is something to compare in terms of setting trends compared to our country effort. Because, like I said, I only heard through it, from the grapevine.
Girl, me and you both.
And in terms of, I don't believe it was by mistake that announcements wasn't publicized heavily. It could be a strategic thing. I mean, women are around in everything we do. So how can you not acknowledge it? That it's coming.
I'm not sure, but apparently it's like they even got a color for it too. You're supposed to wear a certain color for the day. It's
Really?
like, purple is an internationally recognized color to symbolize women, while the combination of the colors green, purple, and white is meant to represent women's equality. I'm telling you, bro, I've never heard of this. And I felt some type of way because after you told me, I was like, well, how come I don't know this? Of course, I've heard of it. And like the nickname of it, which is just called plain Women's Day here in America. But, of course, it's International Women's Day. I've heard of Women's Day, but it's not like a big hoopla like most of the regular commercial holidays, you know? Of course, like everybody knows when Valentine's Day or Thanksgiving or whatever other kind of commercial holidays come around because it's heavily publicized, it's heavily marketed. People got theme-based events based on whatever kind of holiday coming up. I mean, Martin Luther King. Everybody knows when it's going to be Martin Luther King weekend because there's going to be flyers all over the place with, you know, having Martin Luther King looking as ratchet as he can be, you know. So you know it's coming up. You get what I'm saying? Basically, you know certain holidays coming up. You know it's going to be celebrated. You know what I'm saying? So you know about it. So you look forward to it. Be like, okay. But something like this is like a secret of some sort. It's like, what? And this has been going on since 1913. And they even got colors for it. They got countries that observe it as a, you know, basically a public holiday where businesses are closed and schools are closed. And here I am not knowing this before.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not to say that no one acknowledges it, because there is some, you know, mentions of today. Although you have to be in that environment to see it. You know, it's not like it's put in front of you in terms of if you are a TV, you know, watcher, or if you are buying a drink with some type of reference of breast cancer wrapped around, you know, the actual marketing merchandise. So why there is an issue. I can understand where you're going, but unfortunately we don't have the research to identify the whys.
Oh, the why part, I don't know. I can only speculate why, because it's most of the commercial holidays is money generated. You know, they're going to make as much money as they possibly can from it. I'm sure there's money to be made. It sounds sickening, but let's be honest. I'm sure there's money to be made during this Women's Day also, but it's not as lucrative. You know what I mean? It's like one of those, you know how they have National Siblings Day or National blah, blah, blah Day? You know, one of those little smaller, lesser-known days? It's like they treat Women's Day as such, and it shouldn't be, because there are so many remarkable women in the past, in the present, and to come that have done so much for the progression of women and men, you know, across the world. And something like this should be really highly celebrated, really spoken about, not just from women, but from men, you know, to respect those women in their lives who've done great things for this world. And, it should be a school holiday, too. Them kids should observe it and know more about it. To me, I'm just not saying. Yeah.
And it could be maybe because, you know, they feel like they need a holiday, you know, International Men Day, and we're not equal. So that may be why this day was set aside. You know, we are getting close to equality, but what does that actually mean? Do you feel
equality?
Yeah, I mean, when we compare the gender, and I'm only speaking of a man and a woman at this point, not to say that I don't acknowledge the other new genders that are out there, but just to simplify this discussion into just two. They are not the same because of the simple fact, you know, do we see women as leaders to actually lead our country? You know, how hard it was for Hillary to do her campaign, and all the other women before her or after her who attempted to do some type of president campaign?
Well, on a larger scale, if you speak it like that, I mean, there are so many women who, they broke down barriers, that traditionally that was male-driven, Then we have women who, in the boxing ring, they fight, and they can hold their own. In the MMA, they can hold their own. So women are more than capable of, but I believe there's always that stigma in the back of people's mind. When I say people, to me, it's not just the back of men's mind, but the back of women's mind also, where, yeah, women could do all this great stuff, but, are they 100% capable? I mean, I think there's this doubt about what women can do, how much of it they can do, and can they truly be leaders. Some people don't want to give women that type of power, don't want to give them that type of authority. They'll give you a title, right? Even at the workhouse, you work for some company. They'll give you this amazing title, but who's your backbone? Or who's the person whispering in your ear? It's a man. You know what I'm saying? They give you a little bit more restrictions than they probably would give a man who had the same title as you. The reason for it is I think there's just that doubt. Can we really do it? Do we have that mind state? Because, they think women are fragile. We're emotional, as if they're not either. You know what I'm saying? There's just so much going on. And women think that of other women, too. Because when Hillary was running for presidency, I've heard a lot of women said stuff about Hillary. I'm saying in my mind, but ain't you a woman? But I get it. You shouldn't vote for someone just because of their gender. You get what I'm saying? So that I totally understand. But then it's like you really hear how people really feel about others. So let's take it down to a smaller scale. Just basic, regular people like you and I. You know, a lot of women, you and I both know this on a personal level, will not support the things that we do. Will not come and support our events. Will not come or even invite us to their stuff, for whatever reason that can be. And we're more than capable of,
Yeah, we are more than capable of. And
some people say they'd rather a male doctor than a female doctor. And I asked the question, why? Because they feel like female doctors don't listen. There's a small inferiority somewhere. I've heard some stuff. I'm not going to try to jog my memory and repeat what was said, but it's like, okay, And
also, too, sorry to cut you off, but we must, too, acknowledge the fact that all women across the country do not have the same equality as others. Like, the benefits that we have in America may not be the same in India or, Africa,
Exactly. And those people grind hard. They have to grind even harder than we do in America. You know what I mean? But they do it. They have perseverance. They have a drive. When someone has suffered, when they know what true suffering is, when they know what true poverty is, and all this other stuff, and when they really get that passion in them, and they aim for something, they do not stop no matter what. They keep going, and then their grind is different from someone who didn't have to suffer. You know what I mean? Someone who just did something just to do it, or someone who was given something to do. It is different. And they lack the resources that we have here, but yet they manage. And even not those just in those other countries, but even here in America, back in 1913, you could only imagine what it was like for women then. I don't even think they were able to vote then.
No.
Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
What's that one little girl? I forgot her name, but she got shot in the head how many times? And she's still going at it.
Yeah.
I find her name. But you know what I'm saying?
No.
Huh?
No.
I don't want to say it incorrectly. I don't want to say that little Indian girl.
Right.
I'm not sure what her race is, but all she wanted to do was read and wanted girls from where she's from read. Oh, what's that girl name? It'll come to me.
Yeah.
At some point.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely think that, that what you mentioned, all of that, what you said in terms of how much they had to put in the work compared to, American women or any other women who may not have had those challenges as we do or have done in the past from our ancestors, that they're still considered property. There's some women who are still referenced as property, not having their own identity. So we must acknowledge today. We have to, because there was so much given, so much sacrifice and lack to allow others to be more strong, to appear stronger than the woman. But at the end of the day, we all already had control mentally. Do you believe so? That a woman doesn't have to always be aggressive to be in control?
No, I don't think one has to be aggressive. But you need to be firm. I believe. Well, okay. Let's start over. You can be aggressive in pursuing the work that you're trying to be, but when it comes to interacting with people or whatever like that, that aggression is not needed because you are not a man. Let's get that right. You are a woman, and if they can't see that you are a woman, that's something within them that they need to figure out. All you can do is be the best that you can be. I believe in being firm. I believe in not having to waver, trying to think, should I do this and do that? I believe that you should be confident and bold in your answers, in your whatever it is that you're doing. You understand? But you shouldn't be, pardon my term, you shouldn't be aggressive or be a B word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't, you shouldn't treat others in such ways because you have something to prove. I believe if you've made it this far, you have nothing to prove to no one but to prove to yourself, I can keep going.
Yes. Because if we can get through spending twice as much time, as many hours looking after kids compared to dads, like they can be very in a better position based on the fact that they don't have to be the person to be the nurturers in the home. They, fathers don't have to be tied to the children, but there are a few that hold it down for their children as if they are the mother. We must acknowledge them too. But women have sacrificed so much in terms of setting aside our goals and aspirations for even returning to work, like, maternity leave, just the simple fact of the regulation in terms of working women being pregnant. Also, the pay, how much we get paid compared to the opposite gender.
Oh, girl, you don't touch a sore spot. Because it has happened to me, and yeah.
And the expectation is different. They sometimes the workload is not assigned equally based on gender sometimes. And that's the rules of the law in terms of discrimination policies and things like that. But it still happens. There always are loopholes. And today is a day to just acknowledge those strong women who have been through the mud. I know I've been through mud in terms of being a woman, in a working professional woman, and raising children also in that midst.
That's true.
Comparing yourself when you put your resume out there for a job opportunity and how you're ranked compared to the opposite gender, somehow it's supposed to be equated the same. But in the back of your mind, there's a hidden agenda happening
Of course, of course. And I believe like things like that still go on and on and on and on and on. And because if you don't challenge it, if you just take it and don't push back because you're scared you're going to lose your job, you're scared you're going to lose your position, or whatever your fear may be that's holding you back from speaking up and saying something, you know, so it's like it just continues on.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole Me Too movement. For years, people have been knowing what's really happening in Hollywood. I mean, it was not a secret. It was open. Everybody knows, whether they want to admit it or talk about it or whatnot. And it took for one lady, you know, for her to be like, you know, I can't do this anymore, whatever case meant. And she put her whole self on the line and snitched. And by her snitching, everybody else came through follow. You know what I'm saying? So now there's a small shift, I'm sure, in the industry where people are being more mindful of how they interact with actors and actresses or people on set, period. Now, is that going to stop any sexual assault or harassment in that type of environment? It won't stop it, but it won't be, oh, it's cool. He can do that because he got power, he got money.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So the same thing with when it comes to inequality in the workplace. Sometimes you just got to take a risk. How's the risk measured depends on the person of how much you think you may have to lose. But I know for myself, eventually I got fired from there too, but I know I spoke up for myself where I was at a job and I started off as an office administrator, right? Then they moved me to become an HR administrator, and I work with the HR lady directly. So I did payroll for both the Georgia location and the Tennessee location. I help out fill out applications, or when we had like a couple of people that come in illegally, and we just needed to do, needed their work for. So there's like certain paperwork they have to sign and all this on. I help with onboarding and all this other stuff. So I helped her out for about a year and a half doing that. Then they fired her, right? Okay, they fired her. So while they fired her in the interim, I was doing most of the work because payroll was weekly. All that stuff does not stop because they fired her. So in the back of my mind, it made sense to me and to others, well, they're going to give you that position because you're already doing it. And, and then I was like, you know what? You have to look at it from every angle. Even if they don't give it to me and they bring in somebody else, that somebody else I'm still going to be the administrator, HR, assistant. So I'm still going to be working with that person because I wouldn't be mad if they would have brought somebody else in who has experience because that's just what they do, right? Girl, you know what they did instead?
What?
They gave that position to, I'm going to call it he's non-black, a man that worked there, but he was working in a billing department, right? Mm-hmm. They gave him the HR position. Mind you, he has no HR background. His background was he was a manager at Papa John's for 10 years. Okay? He had no HR background or anything. He has some managerial background because of the Papa John's situation, whatnot. I get it. He didn't know what to do. They wanted me to type up notes to give to him, to train them on how to do this and to do that. When I tell you I lit up, honey, I was on fire. I was like, I was on fire. I was like, I downplayed it. I'm going to be honest. I downplayed it and said, well, I didn't really do as much as you guys thought I did. So-and-so, which is the old HR person, she really did the bulk of it, and I kind of helped her out with the data entry. I was not going to do it. They're like, well, I know she left you notes because she did. Prior to them firing her, she did go out of the country for 6 weeks to go visit her family, right? So for that 6 weeks she was gone, she left me notes on what to do, and she'll call me when she can, to make sure everything's on point. I told them that I'm not sure what happened to the notes. Somebody came on my desk and things are missing now. Girl, I was not going to do it. I was not going to do it. So to make a long story short, they gave him that position. Not only did they give him that position, girl, they paid him. He was making, I don't know how much. He was making less than 50. And they gave him that position,